I want you to get up now. I want you all to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window. Open it and stick your head out and yell, "It's time for HQ, baby!"
Hate audience participation? It just makes me very nervous because, one, sometimes the audience doesn't deliver, and also, two, I have paid for the show to be entertained, not to be part of the entertainment.
No, talk more about Roman Mars's body, please. Talk about the various curves and angles of
Talk
Roman
about his
Mars's
sinews. He's an extremely angular man.
He's a well-built man, and he can do a podcast episode all about the details that went into building himself.
What have you been up to today? Other than, like work?
So,
work?
I just got knocked out of, do you know the HQ app? Have you heard about this? Oh, it's going to change your life. And by change your life, I mean ruin your life.
Well, I'm into it. I'm going to download it.
It's a really interesting, like, smart. Oh, look, someone's actually making good ideas for millennials for once. Okay. But it's this app that's a trivia game app, but it's live. And so there's 2 games per day, one at 3 Eastern and one at 9 Eastern. And it has like a live host, this comedian, Scott something or another, who like narrates along and hosts the trivia game, and then you go through. It used to be 12 questions. Now they bumped it up to 15 because Scott's an asshole apparently. But you have to get through each one, and if you get one wrong, then you're out. And then if you get to the end, then the real money prize pool gets split between however many winners there are.
Oh, interesting. Do you have to put money in to get money?
Nope, totally free.
I will check that out. I was thinking of that app that was popular like 3 years ago. It was another trivia app. I can't remember what it was called, but it had like a spinning wheel in like each color. It was like different pie sections that were different colors that each represented like a category.
I don't think I remember
trivia.
That one.
It'll come to me. It was like kind of fun, but I think it might have been called Trivia Crack.
Oh, yeah, I never did it, but I heard about it from my sister.
It was, like, kind of fun. I did it for, like, I don't know, a couple hours with someone, and then I was like, okay, I'm over it.
Yeah, I think it was all the rage in my sister's high school at the time.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yep. But no, it's a fun app.
How far have you made it in the 15 rounds?
I think the best I got was question 8 at one point.
Okay.
Yeah, and usually, I mean, if I like watch to the end of and don't log off the app in a fury after immediately being kicked out, I'll notice it's like, like this is the way the game is designed. It's you get one wrong at some point and then you're out immediately, but then you're realizing like, oh shit, I would have gotten 9 out of the 12 right. It's just that I got out on question 4.
Yes, that's hard.
And also, I mean, a huge part of it is I know nothing about sports. Every single time a sports like that is the one, even when I like play trivia with friends, like pub trivia with friends, stuff like that, it's like, that's my clear, egregious blind spot.
Yeah. I'm not very good at the sports ones. Every once in a while, I'll like pull something out, but
I know it's a bummer because it's a perfect trivia category because it's so built on esoteric facts and statistics and records and shenanigans like that, and also a huge chunk of the American populace actually knows shit about it. So it's a perfectly reasonable trivia category that I got nothing on.
Yeah, I would say that of any sports type question, I would probably be better at a baseball or a tennis question, being that I know things about those sports.
Sure.
If it's football, then I'm like, I can't even tell you like a football team. It's not going to go well, but baseball's like, my family's like tangentially into baseball, so I'm more comfortable in that realm than anything else.
Chill.
As I refresh Google looking at the World Series game.
Remind me again what teams. I know Dodgers is one of them just because I have so many allies.
That's why I'm watching. It's also the Houston Astros.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's also been a very interesting World Series. Like, the last game tied at 3-3 in terms of, like, games won. But the game, I think it ended at, like, 14-12 or something. Like, each team just kept scoring.
Dang.
Or, like, it would be, like, 4 runs this, 4 home runs this inning, and then 3 the next, and then a break. It was just all over the place. So it was pretty entertaining to watch or observe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not even I grew up more of an Angels fan than a Dodgers fan, but
okay.
I still feel connected to LA enough to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, because you were in the Long Beach crew, right?
Yeah. It was actually really interesting, demographics. There's these cool, I don't know if you've ever seen maps of, different sports teams and who's into, regionally. Kind of, there's these cool color-coded maps that show, obviously, if you're in Houston, you're most likely to root for the Astros. But then, as you get farther from that, kind of there's, colors that start to blend together to show, the other teams kind of sway back and forth. And it's weird in LA because you've got 2 baseball teams, so there's kind of differences in how that plays out neighborhood by neighborhood.
Yeah, I haven't paid that much attention to that with regards to Cubs versus White Sox in Chicago. Beyond the general sense that more, Cubs are huge on the north side, Sox are bigger on the south side, and generally speaking, I think that again, I've done no research on this. This is just based on sort of the vibe that I've gotten from tangential passing by. But generally speaking, it seems to divide a little bit along racial lines. But in particular with how obnoxiously into the Cubs the white people are. But
that's interesting.
But I don't know. It's entirely me talking out of my ass. So, grain of salt.
When did you start playing this HQ game?
Last week, I think.
Okay. Not too long ago.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it on a couple podcasts, and I was like, all right, let's get into this.
Well, I guess so. I missed the one. What did you say? There was one at 3 and 9 Eastern time?
3 and 9 Eastern, yeah. So I usually am working and can't play the daytime game, but I'll hit the nighttime game more often than not.
Okay.
Haven't won one yet, though. Question 8.
I'll try and do it tomorrow. I don't have super high hopes, but it's a fun idea.
Yeah.
I like that it's live.
Yeah, I was reading an article that was sort of talking about, hey, all of these people that are talking about pivot to video and blah 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 bullshit. It's this is the one example of it's made by the same people who made Vine.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
Which
interesting.
Explains why it's good and people actually like it, and it's a quality product instead of every other social network and every other app. Because Vine was the only good thing on the internet, and then Twitter had to kill it. But oh gosh, yeah, we're almost exactly a year. I remember seeing a bunch of posts, I think it was last week, that were a year since Twitter killed Vine.
Aww.
God, Twitter's such a fucked company. It's bad in every way.
Yeah.
Anyway, just the article basically being, hey, look, it's actually fun, entertaining video that has a live element baked into it. And guess what? It's going to be really easy to advertise on it, which is the secret that every game show has on real TV has learned forever. Speaking of Twitter, have you been paying any attention? I've only barely been following it, but to the fact that Twitter and Facebook and Google had to testify in front of Congress this week.
Yes, I have paid a little bit of attention in that all of the daily news podcasts that I listen to have talked about it.
Okay.
Haven't done much research beyond that, but yeah, sounds like a wild time. I think it was on the Daily this morning. They played a little bit of audio from it, and they some congressperson was do you consider yourselves a media company or a technology company? Do you recognize that you're basically a newspaper? And they were like, well, legally, we're not a newspaper because we are just a hosting platform. And they were like, sure.
Yeah. That's a really interesting thing that I have mixed feelings about, because I feel like I almost want there to be, in my head, I'm thinking about a distinction between media company versus like newspaper. I think I don't know. I feel pretty qualified saying Facebook's not a newspaper. They're not in the business of content creation. Newspapers in general are held to higher standard, like news organizations are held to higher standards than a lot of other media organizations. And like, yeah, however, not being a media company, I don't know about that one. Because in the popular conception, there isn't really much of a, like just your average person that's thinking about media aren't really thinking about the difference between like a producer of content and a distributor of content. Isn't really, that doesn't matter too much for the end audience member.
Yeah.
And Facebook is in this interesting zone where it's definitely a distributor, but it certainly doesn't follow along with the same business models or the same scale issues that sort of limited things like, movie distributors or television networks or cable companies, etc.
Do you have plans for Thanksgiving? Gonna
Absolutely
go home
not.
Or just...
Actually, that's a total lie. I have one plan for Thanksgiving because I'm not going home and my family isn't coming out. Last year, my family came out to Chicago and we're not doing that this year because I don't really like Thanksgiving food at all. And certainly like no one wants to like make a Thanksgiving meal for themselves anyway, because like what I'm going to do relating to what we talked about a few episodes back, there's one recipe from Binging with Babish that is like elaborate and takes a lot of time, but sounds really good. And that's making Cubanos. And so I'm going to try that.
Oh,
I'm going to make that.
That's a fun idea. That'll be really fun.
Which involves like marinating and brining pork shoulder for like 24 hours and all that fun stuff, roasting for 4 or 5 hours. So it'll be good.
That's a great idea to give yourself like a big cooking project, even if it's not Thanksgiving-y, just to give yourself one that you will enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've told you about this before, and certainly not on the pod, but my family takes Thanksgiving a little bit, and by a little bit I mean excessively too seriously.
Okay.
I love it very much, and it's probably my favorite American holiday. But every year, cousins or people will bring friends or significant others to the family, and there's always people who are new who are witnessing all of this for the first time, and you can kind of like see it through their eyes, and you're like, oh no, this is much more bananas than I realized because it's just normal to me. Mm-hmm. But our Thanksgivings encompass about 40 people.
Okay.
It begins with, we don't quite do this out anymore because we don't go quite this far all out, but for many years, each Thanksgiving weekend had a theme. There's a color-coordinated spreadsheet created in terms of who has what job on what day at what time.
Wow.
Yeah, like one good example was the year that the theme was Camp Thanksgiving. So, and it's not just Thursday. It's Thursday, obviously all the Thanksgiving foods, and then Friday we have Shabbat dinner using all the leftovers from Thanksgiving, and then in the morning there's a soccer game. And then everyone goes to the movies Friday afternoon, and then Saturday there's like a big brunch for everybody. So it's quite the endeavor.
Okay.
And one year, the Camp Thanksgiving year for brunch on Saturday, you had to write a letter home, like a pretend to like, dear mom and dad, I'm having a great time at Camp Thanksgiving, in order to get your breakfast. And my cousin Dadla wrote, dear mom and dad, having an okay time at camp. The food sucks.
Oh gosh.
I feel like there was a reason that I was bringing this up other than Thanksgiving. I'm gonna traditionally for Shabbat dinner on Friday, my dad and I cook some type of like turkey stew or soup using a bunch of leftovers, and saving all the turkey bones to make a nice stock. But this year there's a Chef John video I saw about how to make this like Thai turkey soup. Ooh. I don't think it's traditionally with turkey, but he was like, this is a new way to do this.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to try that out. Just
nice.
Something fun, something different.
Excellent.
I think it'll be nice to have like lemongrass and lime and basil leaves and all these things that are going to be new flavors, and lighter and brighter flavors than most of the heaviness of Thanksgiving.
Ooh, yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, we don't really have any consistent Thanksgiving traditions. We do the same thing for Christmas every year. We do the same thing for 4th of July most years. Do the same bananas things for Halloween every year. But no, Thanksgiving always, we'd bounce back and forth from one family to the other, or, and even within that, it would usually be like whether it was my mom's side or my dad's side, it probably would be a different conflagration of various aunts and uncles, each time around. Last year though, when we were in Chicago, because, my apartment was very tiny and I didn't certainly want to cook Thanksgiving dinner, and neither did anyone else want to cook in my apartment for it. So we went out to dinner, to a restaurant for Thanksgiving dinner for the first time ever, to a seafood place.
Oh, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, it was great. And my mom and my grandma were like, oh my gosh, we could have done this years ago. This is so easy. We don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I also went out to Thanksgiving dinner last year because I was, quote unquote, studying abroad in DC. And it was nice. I had a good time, but it also felt very foreign and very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember, because when I studied abroad in Paris, it was over the fall. And I don't remember what I did for Thanksgiving, in that I know I didn't do anything particularly special. But I don't remember. I don't remember what even I did do, or if I went to any particular restaurant. I don't know. Who knows? Probably had a crepe.
Crepes.
Crepes are good. And theoretically pretty easy. I've never made them, but my mom makes crepes all the time.
Yeah, they're really easy. And I make them gluten-free, so I feel like if I can do that very easily, then they're definitely easy. That reminds me of my success over the weekend, which was I acquired a silly and gimmicky but very nice quality waffle maker for free.
Excellent.
So I'm very happy about that.
How did you get it for free?
Nextdoor. Do you know that website?
God damn, I signed up for it like a week ago.
Mildly obsessed with it. Obsessed is a strong word. I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
But people sometimes just post stuff on there. Oh, also, so I got that on Saturday, and I was like, wow, I am a success. I don't know. I think I got it. No, I got it Friday night, and then I made waffles on Saturday. But on a different day, someone posted on Nextdoor and was like, I want to sell some board games we don't play enough of anymore because we're trying to make room and clear out our stash. Mm-hmm. So I acquired 3 really nice, basically brand new board games for $20 for all 3.
Holy shit.
And
what
excited about it.
What were they? What's the haul? Haul video. Let's go.
I got a copy of Seven Wonders Duel, which is the 2-person version of Seven Wonders. I haven't played the 2-person version before, but I like Seven Wonders a lot, so figured that will be good. And then the other 2 games I haven't played before and was kind of tangentially aware of, but kind of figured I looked them up, did some, read some reviews. Mm-hmm. They seemed good for $5. Can't pass that up. One is called Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Okay.
It's a card game, superhero-y themed.
Oh.
I think it's a collaborative game, is my understanding, which sounds cool.
Okay.
Where I think everybody plays a different superhero and you're all working to defeat the villain.
Mm.
And briefly reading the rules, it seems like there's a lot of different scenarios you can play, so that it's not always the same gameplay, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then the other one is called Rune Age, which I have heard of but haven't played before. And that one I think is kind of similar to Dominion. It's a deck building game.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually, because this person listed about 5 or 6 games, so I did some research to figure out, which ones would I want to let them know I'm interested in. And I was kind of debating between a couple. I definitely knew I wanted to get the Seven Wonders one. And I read this review of Rune Age that was like, some people think this game is slightly boring or just a derivative of other games, but I'm going to write 10,000 words on why they're wrong, and anyone who doesn't love this game is evil. I don't know, it was like very silly, but I was like, you know what? I'll get it, because this person made me laugh and clearly, is really into it. So
yeah.
So why not?
Get into it.
So I'll hopefully report back soon on how they went and
absolutely
what I thought of them.
Absolutely. We'll build out our board game recommendation.
Oh, yes.
Our official podcast, Board Game Rex.
Ooh, that's a good segment or thing. I'm into that.
Oh, not actually speaking of segments, but speaking of acknowledging the fact that this is a podcast, hey, we had a lost episode. We had our first lost episode.
Oh, no, I forgot. I mean, I didn't forget, but that was so sad.
I know, that was so long ago. And I don't even remember what we talked about, but I remember it was like really good. Like it was 2 solid hours of like really interesting stuff. That was fun to talk about, but I don't remember what.
Neither do I. But I feel like there were some good stories in there and like good bits. We'll see. I think that might come back to me what we talked about, but yes. But do you want to check, speaking of, to make sure that like the recording looks good right now?
I noticed. Yeah, for full disclosure, the reason why we have a lost episode is because the way that we record this, we use a website that like lets us talk to each other. Then on my computer, I record from the website into one file for Rachel using a thing called Audio Hijack. It also records into my microphone. And so, yay, 2 wonderful audio files. And for whatever reason, it like chopped up and resampled and sped up my end of the thing. And so it was like a 2-hour long file for Rachel and an 1.5 hour long file for me, and it was like my entire thing condensed down into that 1.5 hours, but like chopped up and resampled and gross and undoable. This time, to get around that, one, I'm looking at it and checking to make sure that the files are the same length, and yep, 2904 for both. And also I'm double recording in another program on my side, just to be safe, as a backup. So we should be good.
Very good.
But yeah, I don't know why Audio Hijack fucked us, but it did. Oh, okay. The reason why is because I have a like notes doc on my phone just for whenever, like, here's a thing that could be fun to talk about. In it, I wrote down lost episode. But the other thing that I have a section of is follow-up. Copyright 2011, John Siracusa. And in it, I've managed to recreate my mom's pumpkin muffin recipe from many episodes back.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
You know what the recipe is?
What's that?
Use the Trader Joe's boxed pumpkin muffin mix. In that, I like right after we recorded that episode, I went to Trader Joe's that's down the street from me and like saw the box of pumpkin muffins, and I was like, that box art looks familiar, and also pumpkin muffins are great. Let me try. And went home, made it, and it's like, oh, this is literally the exact same thing. 100%. This is what my mom did, was just use this mix.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've had that mix, and even if I haven't, like, Trader Joe's has some very solid baking mixes, so I'm not surprised. That's really good, though. I'm glad that that's the secret recipe.
Yeah.
I had a funny thing, just funny little story I wanted to tell you.
Anecdote, let's go.
Anecdote, just because I feel like you'll appreciate this. But on Monday night, I went to the Turtles All the Way Down tour in Portland, which was delightful, and I don't know, there's just so many parts of that evening that were wonderful, as you might imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But there was kind of different little segments to it. One of them was a brief recording of Dear Hank and John, where they answered questions from Portland or from people, who had, I think it was on Twitter or Instagram or something, that asked for questions, and people wrote in their kind of standard questions.
Good, because that's the only way to do an audience Q&A, is to have people pre-submit questions beforehand.
Yeah.
I hate audience Q&A so much. Continue.
Okay. And it's funny because John also talked about how he hates audience participation at things, but that was a different segment. But one of the questions was, I think from a woman named Emma. Anyways, and the question was basically just like, I'm in grad school right now and it's really terrible and I'm tired and I hate it and, life is stressful. Mm-hmm. Should I quit grad school and start a bakery? And this went off into a, I don't know, kind of a long tangent about like, well, and the answer was basically like, running a bakery is actually not that easy, and
the
you have
answer
to get up.
Certainly no, because you have to run a bakery, which is like an extremely hard job.
Yes, and you have to like get up at like 2 a.m. to start making everything, and
And also, 90% of restaurants and bakeries or some insane statistic of that fail within the first couple of years.
Yes, something like that.
Grad school and work at a bakery? Dope. Do that. Quit grad school and start a bakery? No, thank you.
And I'm not sure if it was John or Hank, but one of them said, and the other issue here is that we've been in Portland for like 12 hours, and there are a lot of bakeries here. You guys have too many bakeries. Like,
that's a fair point.
Which is true.
Saturated.
And then, I think maybe John said that, and then Hank was like, but what if? And John was like, please, dear God, don't say it. And Hank was like, but what if you could add something to the baked goods that would make them even more sellable? And John was like, I'm pretty sure there's already too many of those in this city as well.
What if indeed? I appreciate that John and Hank Green have like the opposite of the McElroy brothers, unless, little yes and, where it's Hank coming with unless, and John being like, oh dear God, no. Let's stop this dead in its tracks. As a side note, I do really appreciate how much more mean John Green gets when he's around his brother. Like whenever it's a video of the two of them together, is all of a sudden John goes from being like really, the smart dad who's like telling you about world affairs and stuff like that to all of a sudden just dunking on Hank constantly.
I know. It's really sweet.
It is.
So this little bit happens, they're like dancing around the topic, and my brain was like, they're in Portland. They could consume said substances in Portland. And then I was like, guess what happened the last time a podcasting crew was in Portland and got high?
Oh, hot damn.
We got the McElroy brothers will be in Trolls 2.
The brothers Green will also be in Trolls 2 and or Trolls 3.
And so I was walking home with my boyfriend Isaac, and I was telling him about this, and I was saying, we were kind of having a debate or a silly argument about this, where it was like, should they start a competing podcast that's like, this is why we're a better brother duo to be in Trolls 2? And my idea was that they just started their own podcast that's called The Green Brothers Will Be in Trolls 2, and have pretend that they have no knowledge of the existence of the McElroy brothers will be in Trolls 2. Unfortunately, I do not think this is going to happen, but I really hope this could happen.
Were you listening to My Brother and Me when Justin did the smart stuff bit? The smart stuff with Roman Mars bit?
No, what? Okay, I got it. What?
This is a bit. I think it was about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. Where in the middle of an episode, like they're doing a goof, and Justin pilots like, he's like, this is going to be my pilot for my new show, Smart Stuff with me and Roman Mars. And in the episode, Justin was like, I'm just going to do my part. Roman can do his later. And so it's just like 2 minutes or like a minute and a half of Justin just going, okay then. Interesting. And leaving gaps. And then Roman Mars, being a fan of the McElroys, made a little 2-minute thing of him doing his half of the conversation and explaining about, I think, swimming pool lengths.
Wait, that's so great. I'm going to download this episode. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, and then I think they put it in like the next episode after they heard Roman Mars.
Oh, okay.
Made the actual thing.
Those. I'm guessing this is episodes 316 and 17. 316 is called Smart Stuff.
Yeah, that tracks. That's my guess. Yeah, so for Roman Mars, if you want to do your call and response part to this podcast, go for it. I'm not complaining.
Nope. Another great segment of the Turtles All the Way Down tour, was good for so many reasons, was Hank. Well, okay, I take this back. Allegedly, Dr. Lawrence Turtleman, who was Hank in a turtle costume, who is apparently a character in John's new book, but I haven't read it yet. So.
I was about to ask, have you read the book yet? Because I haven't either.
So at first it was just Hank in a turtle costume giving a lecture on the Tuatara and like phylogeny and biology.
All right,
the Tuatara is this little lizard-looking thing.
Way to be Hank Green, Hank.
The Tuatara is also in John's book.
The name sounds
familiar. Until the end of the bit, I didn't know this. And so it was just like, what's happening? It was great. Also, there was supposed to be some PowerPoint that Hank was going to refer to, Dr. Lawrence Turtleman was going to refer to, but it wasn't working. So then he tried to give this very detailed talk on biology without the PowerPoint. And it was just really funny. It was very good.
A+.
I took some really funny photos with like Snapchat captions of what he was saying at the time.
I'm a big fan of the fact that we're both doing our part to carve a niche of podcasts where we explain funny things that happened either to ourselves in real life or in other podcasts. Because I think that's an underserved market. Not enough people do that. Too many podcasts focus on being actually funny.
We can't. That's a weird idea. Being funny.
Lol. Yeah, I haven't read the book, and I should eventually. I've read every other John Green book, and I liked them, so.
Yeah. It was kind of weird because I knew I was going to get a copy of the book at the event, like part of the ticket price was getting. So I didn't pre-order one because it seemed kind of extraneous to have two copies of the book. Do I have two copies of Paper Towns? Yes, but, moving on.
Paper Towns is, like, very good.
Yes, I also have a blue Margot copy and a yellow Margot copy.
Oh, there you go. That'll do ya. Paper Towns is my favorite, it is, for what it's worth.
I'm not sure which one's my favorite. Interesting. Anyways, so I was like, I'll just wait till I go to the event and get the book, then I'll... But it was kind of weird. I was like, wow, 5 years ago, I would have been reading the John Green book the second it came out.
Yeah.
And now I haven't even started it yet.
Yeah. Do you attribute that more to sort of slight falling off in terms of your... So either slight falling off in terms of your particular rabid fandom of John Green, slight falling off in terms of being a particularly rabid fan of things in general, or slight falling off in terms of reading books? Because I think for me, it's a combination of all three. I don't read books. I'm not usually as much of a huge fan of stuff, and I'm not as into John Green as I was in early college.
Yes. I guess for me it is a combo of all three, but mostly it's the not reading books and not... what was the second one? I'm still a big fan of John Green, but I think it's mostly like not as intensely being a fan of things that I need to do it day of, and then not reading books as much as I at one point in my life did.
Yeah. Yeah, God, I don't read anything. I bought Gaby and Allison's book.
Oh, I was going to say that's the last thing I read.
Yeah, and okay, good. Since you have read it, you know how quick and easy of a read it is. I'm still not done with it.
Yes.
I read through, I think, 3/4 of it in one sitting, and which, again, was like an hour, and put it down and then just never picked it back up. That was like 2 months ago.
You gotta finish it. I have actually a lot of thoughts about that book. Overall, I enjoyed the book, and it was very good, and I was proud of them and happy they came out.
Okay. Hey, here's what we're going to do. Wait. So now, hold on, pause. Okay. So you've read it. I'm pretty close to finishing it, so I'm going to finish it. We can put this out and say first official episode of the That Podcast Thing book club is Gaby Dunn and Allison Raskin's I Hate Everyone But You, a young adult book that is told through a series of it is, oh God, fuck me, what's the term for it? Epistolary. It's an epistolary novel.
Yes, I was going to let you have it.
Oh, good. I appreciate that. An epistolary novel that's told through text messages and emails and the like. That sound like a decent plan?
Yeah. I like it.
Cool.
Yeah, I read that in probably 2 days. I read it really quickly. It felt like the type of way I used to read books, which was like, oh my gosh, John Green has a new book out. I'm gonna not stop reading it for 12 hours. I got the book in the evening, and then I read it until like 1 a.m., and that was about half of the book. And I think the next 2 days, I, in slightly smaller chunks, finished it.
Dope.
Yeah. Let's see. What did I read before then? I guess, probably before then was in August when I went on a trip to Maine, where there was no internet and no TV. So thus, well, there was TV, but no cable or anything. So it was a good way to do lots of reading.
Yeah.
When you don't have the internet.
See, the problem with that is that when you're subscribed to so many podcasts and are proactive about downloading a bunch of episodes and you have a huge backlog, even when I don't have any internet, I just listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yes.
Or now play my Nintendo Switch.
I did listen to a lot of podcasts. Oh, you have a Nintendo Switch?
Yeah, dog. I was about to say fun story. I don't know whether it actually is a fun story. I remember back when the Wii came out, like it was a million years before you could get one. And the only reason we were able to get one like within the first year or something that it came out was because my uncle, who's a game developer, had some friends at Nintendo and was able to he was able to get one through them that we got from him.
Okay.
And so because I knew about that, I was like, oh, the Switch is going to be really hard to get. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and pre-order it. If I can pre-order it, dope. Cool. Also partially because it's like, I want to buy this while I am still employed and have gainful income that I can spend on frivolous nonsense, especially frivolous nonsense that can theoretically last for many years.
Yes.
So cool. I'm going to try and pre-order it. If I can't pre-order it, no worries. Whatever. I'll get it eventually. The pre-order works. I managed to get mine in. And then like literally the day after I placed my pre-order, I remember, the first game that's coming out for this is the new Zelda game. And I've hated every Zelda game I've played. And then the other big game that's coming out this year is the new Mario game. And I've hated every Mario game I've ever played. Like, I don't like Zelda and Mario.
That's really interesting. I'm not sure I knew that about you.
Yeah. And so I was like, do I cancel it? Because I'll get it and there's no games that I'll like. And then first forgot about it. And then it got close to like when it was actually the launch day. And I was like, nah, I'll just let it go through. Whatever. It'll be fine. But then I was like, I do want a game to play on this because all the reviews show it as being really cool. Like the Switch is being cool. So I need to do something with it. Fine, I'll buy Zelda. Whatever. It'll at least be something. Then, of course, this Zelda game is maybe the single greatest video game ever made. And I played like 200 hours of it and like did not talk to friends for months as I was playing this game obsessively. And still play it, in fact, every now and then to this day. So, ended up working out.
Wow. See, I just don't play a lot of video games, don't have any knowledge, but I feel like everyone I know, like the two things that they love, even if they're like very casually into video games, are Zelda and Mario.
Yeah.
So it's...
I think that all the Zelda games that I tried playing before, there was this super long video by this interesting guy on YouTube. I think his name is Joseph Anderson, if I'm remembering correctly. But he makes really in-depth video game critique videos, and his Zelda one is, I think, 3 hours long. And so I one day I was, after 2 months into playing the game and having played 100 hours at that point, I was like, all right, I'm going to watch this video. And a lot of his video was talking about how Zelda's a great game, but it's not necessarily a great Zelda game. It doesn't do the things that he wants out of a Zelda game. And as he was going through that list, I realized, oh yeah, everything you're saying is all shit I hated about earlier games and really like that it isn't in this new Zelda one. So that may be part of it. I do also think the earlier Zelda games are a lot harder, and I'm really bad at video games. And like Ocarina of Time in particular, because my dad had a Nintendo 64 when we were growing up, and like I've started playing Ocarina of Time dozens of times. I've never made it past the first hour ever. So I'm sure that's also part of why I hate it, because I'm just too bad and I can't beat it.
I have an interesting update, which is, according to the small noises I can hear right now, it's raining outside.
Ooh.
Which you might be saying, you live in Portland. It doesn't rain outside all of the time.
Sure.
It's been sunny in over 60 degrees for 2 weeks.
Damn, son.
In October.
Hot damn.
And I'm genuinely confused by it. It was very nice, and I don't want to complain about it.
Yeah,
but
y'all are supposed to be getting into the shitty season now. And by shitty season, I mean the other 9 months of the year that aren't July 4th until September 30th.
But yeah, it's kind of drizzling right now.
Dog. There you go. Yeah, Chicago got cold these last 2 weeks.
Ooh.
Like it all of a sudden went from, we were still getting some 80s and 90s weeks even into September. And then like this week it's been down into 40s and 30s.
Ooh.
So we'll see how this winter goes, I guess.
I don't know. Someday I feel like I'll end up living in a Chicago or an East Coast or somewhere that has snow and is cold, like properly cold.
Yeah, see, and I am thinking about how like, all right, when this lease is up, which West Coast city am I gonna bounce back to?
Oh yeah, is that like for sure happening? Or I mean, I know you've been thinking about it a lot.
Not for sure, but like, not for sure by virtue of the fact that I've been putting off thinking about it.
Okay, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think you've been like thinking about it for a long time.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, my thought is when this lease is, because my lease is up in May, end of May, and I'm like,
okay.
One, that'll be almost exactly 2 years. I think maybe 2 years less 1 month. And, that's a good, you can't say I didn't give Chicago a go at that point.
Yeah.
But also like, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. And definitely for various reasons, leaning towards all three of the LA, Portland, Seattle trio. And we'll see.
Well, that's exciting. And Portland's really fun.
And Portland is really fun.
And I feel like it'd be cool to live somewhere that's like pretty close to home, but not home.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm biased.
For sure. Yeah. That said, I have no desire to live in New York City, but just like every job's in New York City. There are all the jobs in New York City.
Yeah. Yes.
And I do need a job in order to live in a place. So we'll see. As much as I want to knock it off of my list of potential cities, I can't. Because every time I do a cursory job search, it always was like, all the good stuff's in New York. All right. And who knows? Maybe I'll stay in Chicago another year.
So many options.
Let's see. Is there anything that I added to this list that wasn't from August? I have some notes on
That's a good question.
The PewDiePie controversy, which I think this was a PewDiePie controversy before the most recent PewDiePie controversy. So that's fun.
What's the most recent PewDiePie controversy?
I don't remember the order of it. They're all variations on PewDiePie fucking sucks as a person.
I mean, yeah.
Now, here's one thing actually that I do bristle at a little bit, and is in a lot of the controversy. Again, now we're talking about months ago news stories that no one cares about, but the amount of it's a similar thing that I'm sort of starting to see with like the Kevin Spacey allegations in particular about talking about House of Cards is like people turning around and saying like PewDiePie's a piece of shit. I always knew that because his stuff sucks. And people saying like Kevin Spacey's a piece of shit. Also, House of Cards is a bad show, so awesome, like, good riddance and stuff like that. And it's like, or in general, one, those don't necessarily have a relation on each other. It's possible for bad and good stuff to like commingle in that way. Two, in PewDiePie's case, PewDiePie, especially in the beginning, was actually very good at being a YouTube video game comedian who kind of pioneered an entire genre and sort of rightfully earned a massive audience through sheer force of personality. He also is a shithead and bad. And I don't know. Yeah. You sort of saying, I never understood why kids liked him, to turn into, see, he was bad all along, is like, no, there was.
Yeah, that's not fair. And like, that's not helpful either to like any part of the conversations. Like that's not doing anything.
Yeah. If you can shunt away shitty people and make some claim of like, you should, I don't know, it sort of prompts the idea that you should be able to tell that someone is shitty based on the quality of their work. And
right, I was about to say.
And like, no, that you can be surprised by it.
Yeah, and I think it's dangerous to have the idea that just, like if you're really good at something, then you're not a shitty person.
Exactly. And also it's not to say that like because you liked PewDiePie a few years ago, I think there is an argument in PewDiePie's case that a lot of his current content has become more extreme and shock jockey and shitty. Not that I was ever super following him in general, but like, so there is, I think it's more the case for like people that used to love PewDiePie and maybe have backed off of him a little bit. But like, because you used to like his admittedly quality content doesn't mean that you're a shitty person, because it turns out that he's a racist.
Yeah. That's a very good point. I know there's like a YouTube controversy happening with Phil DeFranco right now.
I haven't super followed it other than, is this at all related to, I know him and Casey Neistat got in on the whole demonetization thing, which I've only really followed from the Hank Green, Anthony D'Angelo, and or like reading about it on The Verge. So I know that Phil DeFranco and Casey Neistat got into some shit over complaining about demonetization, but I don't know if that's what this most recent shenanigans.
I don't really know the origins of this, but Marina Watanabe, do you know Marina Shut Up was her channel name?
Yes, familiar with her. I don't watch her, but I recognize.
Okay. I think she tweeted something like calling Phil DeFranco out, not like super harshly, but just kind of being like, this isn't a great way to cover this story or something like that. And he like kind of blew it out of proportion and like kind of sent all of his followers to like harass her. I don't know if that was intentional, but like, and then she kind of was like trying to point out the power differentials of like me just saying, hey man, like you probably didn't do this right, and here are some tips, to him being like, the patriarchy, blah, 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 like political correctness, screaming, all of my fans should go scream at you, is like a situation. That's my very, very loose understanding of it from having done zero research into it, other than see like 3 posts on the internet.
I understand that like this may come across as being much more of a, sound like treating the symptoms or like a Band-Aid solution than other things, but man, oh man, do YouTube and new media stars need to get media training, like once they hit a threshold of any sort of criticality in terms of audience, that like, I don't know, there's a reason why you see people that have publicists in old media circles not getting into as much of this kind of shit, other kinds of shit in terms of like private life nonsense, everything that's happening right now in terms of like revelations about all sorts of open secrets, stuff like that. But the kind of stuff like this, that this is not, again, neither of us know the full circumstance of, we're like, I'm commenting on this through what you just told me, which you admitted is also like secondhand. But it reads to me a lot like, not to say that it wasn't Phil fucking up, but a fuck up born of, you're a new media star, you're coming out of this idea, you probably have a chip on your shoulder thinking about yourself as like, the media world doesn't respect the work I do, and so you feel like an underdog, and you are an underdog in the broader conversation, but you're not an underdog in conversation with someone who is further down the audience size totem pole than you within this world. And so you're responding to it the way that you would respond to if someone above you was punching down, but instead you're the one above punching down and failing to recognize that. And if you had some media training, you wouldn't do that, because you would know how to handle this shit.
Yeah, and to just like not engage, because it's just not going to work out well for you.
Yeah. That said, I'm sure Taylor Swift has gotten a lot of media training, and that hasn't stopped her from pulling shit from time to time. So, all right.
How do you feel about her new music that's come out recently?
So as of recording, we are 9 days away from the album dropping, November 10th. Counting Down the 13 Days of Tay. Another podcast that I listen to that is a Taylor Swift podcast is doing a giveaway countdown thing up until the album drops. And I haven't won anything yet, but oh well. So at this point, we have 3 singles. We have Look What You Made Me Do, we have Ready For It, and we have Gorgeous. I have come around a lot on Look What You Made Me Do. I was kind of meh about it earlier, but what turned it around for me was Grimes, indie weirdo extraordinaire. She made a Spotify playlist of like, here's some songs that I'm into right now. 90% of them were like weirdo independent pop music and stuff like that. And then also on it was Look What You Made Me Do. And I realized listening through it, it's like, oh, this fits in this list if you ignored the fact that it was by Taylor Swift. It would just be
like this is the context in which this makes sense.
Yeah, it would be a cool, weird indie pop song that like, oh, this weirdly samples from 80s and 90s Eurotrash, and like it samples I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt and a Peaches song. It's silly and over the top, but silly and over the top in a way that like, you know, kind of works. And so I realized like, oh shit, I would like this song a whole lot more if it wasn't by Taylor Swift in the context of Taylor Swift.
Interesting.
And that sort of turned it around for me. In the week since that, I've noticed that like, if it comes on shuffle, I'm into listening to it. And I will from time to time be like, yeah, I want to put on that song and just have it as part of my pop rotation. The other singles I'm a little more mellow on. I'm especially mellow on the fact that like Gorgeous, why is Gorgeous a single, Taylor? That's like a middle of the album cut. It's fine. It's good even, but like, this is not what you put out as a single. I am also bummed because since we haven't had it yet, and we've already had 3 singles and the album's dropping in a week, this means that there probably isn't any collaborations with Drake on the album, which is like, if you're going to have your entire sound like what would happen if Taylor Swift and Drake did music together, then like have Drake on your fucking album. So, I don't know. Also, Drake and Taylor Swift are the same person in terms of like who they are in the pop media landscape. So it works.
I don't think I've heard either of the singles since Look What You Made Me Do, which at first I was kind of confused by. But I heard it on the radio the other day, and I was like, just kind of like absentmindedly, like
it's kind of good.
Along to it. And then I was like, yeah, I get this.
Yeah, it's kind of good if you don't go into it with the weight of like, this is the big new Taylor Swift song.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's just a fun, weird pop song.
But if I think of it just as like a song that I would hear on the radio, I'm like, yeah, this is fun. This is weird. I like it. I can, get behind that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the other 2, pros and cons. And none of them are bad songs. I wouldn't call any of them like objectively terrible. And they certainly aren't like the worst shit that Taylor's ever put out. Cough, that god-awful Christmas album. Oof. Oof. That was one thing that I disagreed with. I never actually finished the episode of Famous Adjacent where they went through the whole Taylor Swift ranking, but like they were starting to say some kind of nice things about Taylor Swift's Christmas album, and it's like, no, gals, no. Every song on that album is trash, and they all belong in the bottom 5 slots on that list. The fact that any song, one, Rob Sheffield, I get that you're making a statement by putting Bad Blood as the worst Taylor Swift song. Like, I get what you're trying to do. Bad Blood's not the worst Taylor Swift song. Come on. Like, level with us. Let's be real. We all know. Bad Blood's, it's a middle-of-the-pack song. It's not the worst. And it certainly isn't worse than Taylor Swift's cover of Santa Baby, which is bad. It's so bad. Overall, though, that list is pretty good.
That was a really fun episode of Famous Adjacent. I enjoyed that.
I've done it a couple times. It's been a while, though, so I should probably do it again. There's this site that someone made that will present you with 2 Taylor Swift songs, and you pick which one you like more. And then fun. You go through that a bajillion times, and it creates your ranking of all 100-odd Taylor Swift songs. As I've done it, I did it a couple years back, and I think I did it again last year to see how it changed. But I should do that again.
That's a fun idea.
Anyway, reminder, in case you can't tell, I'm actually recording this after the fact while it is in the editing version. Hey, cool. Time delays, magic, computer. Anyway, reminder, next week, the episode will, at least in part, be about the book I Hate Everyone But You by Gaby Dunn and Allison Raskin. So that's a thing you should read beforehand, or don't. Whatever. I'm not your mom. So, live your life the way you feel that your life best deserves to be lived. That being said, it will be spoilerful when we do decide to discuss it. But if you don't care about spoilers, I don't know. I guess if you're not going to read it before next episode, you probably won't read it anyway. So realistically, just listen either way. I don't know. What matters is now you have forewarning. You have foreknowledge. It's all on you whether or not you decide to read it or not. Cool. All right. Great. Real end of the episode now. Can you hear the music sort of swelling up? And it'll be really great because it's going to end and peak right at this exact moment now.